Well, here we are again. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Purple, how is it going?
Good evening. Great to see you guys. How is
Great to
everybody?
see you.
I know.
Good evening.
I'm excited, okay? I'm
I
excited.
am too. We were
A little bit.
yelling. We were yelling before the show started because we were cursing the fact that some of the original source material we were going to cover tonight has been removed. Which is,
Mm,
I'm not saying there's a conspiracy, but there's a conspiracy. Let's just say that.
yes.
So, let's see who
Removed
we've
or
got.
doctored. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and some of these things they were clipped and put into articles for the Sun, for the Times, for mainstream media, and even those original images, they've cut them back. They've
Hmm.
edited them. And it makes no sense because it's almost like they're taking the most benign thing that you could not find issue with. And luckily, right before showtime, Purple found the one picture I was looking for, and that's why I was yelling. I was yelling. I was like, there is no way that is a weather balloon. There is no way that is an airplane. But what anyway, hey, how are you doing, Zaxx? What's going on in Canada?
I'm good. Busy day today, busy day, but I'm happy to be here. And yeah, this is the snow update for the day. We still have snow.
Oh gosh.
Let me call some people out in chat. We've got a Dega Outlaw. Hail to you. How are you doing, Purple? Good friend of yours.
Absolutely great to see you, Adega. Good evening.
We've got Kayla Air as well. And before the show started, I gained a new Wolf Brother channel member. That is Brandon, the anime guy. So hail to you,
Nice.
Brandon. Thank you very much. Good dude, putting out great anime content. Well, we're not here to talk about Lord of the Rings, even though I dropped some stuff on social media that I still can't believe. But that's for another show, as they say. So it's just every time I turn around, they do something else stupid. Oh my god. Anyway, let's get to why we're here. This used to be called the Woo Woo Show, but Purple came up with the tagline to the show, which is "Passport to the Paranormal," and then I came up with "Phenomenal." So I hope you guys all like it. So I'm going to buy myself a coffee cup for that. So,
Much is
so
available. Yes.
merch. Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, I do have a merchandise store, but let's see which one we're going to go with. So let's get to this. This is going to be a shorter show tonight for everybody because the IRL is the IRL. So this comes to us from the Daily Mail. And this is not something that happened 6 months ago. This is something that happened a couple of weeks ago in Alaska. The bizarre cloud formation over Alaska's Lazy Mountain prompts police investigation as witnesses fear it was a plane crash, a UFO, or a top secret Russian weapon. Well, tell me what you think about that. And for those people who have seen the footage, let's go to it. So, this is a close up of what we're looking at. And there is another image that I want to get to. You can kind of see it. And that is a very large mountain range. And then these are the images that were, I think, are really fascinating. But these
Yes.
are some of the edited images. Go ahead, Purple.
That's the issue, isn't it? That's the problem. See, we've got all these great images and it's great to see some of the close ups, but what we really need is footage. And that's the one thing that we cannot find. And I know it's out there, or I know it
It
existed,
is. Yeah.
but where is it?
Yeah. Yeah. And Zax, you what is your take on this? You guys vamp for me while I try and find the right pictures because this just happened at Showtime. We pulled these things up. And the images that we've seen so far are very scrubbed. There's actually no other way to put it. Is that what was originally out there all over the place were pictures that quite frankly were horrifying, and I think I found it now. So here we go. Yeah, there we are. And
Hmm.
I'm going to drop the chat out for a second just to go bold big screen on this.
Oh, that's a
Look
good
at what we
shot.
got here. Everybody was focusing on
Mhm.
the image, and I've got to figure out where we are. I hope you can see my mouse. This image here
Mhm.
on the right, it could be anything, you know? And then you've got
Hmm.
this. Oh, look at this. Oh, yeah, that looks normal. Yeah, that's a plane. Sure. See those two twin black streaks? Every jet I've
Yeah.
ever seen. And this is what I wanted was right I'm sorry, this stuff pisses me off. It's just like I'm not that stupid. I was making a joke. Yeah, I'll take 10 days to slow the spread, but you're not going to bullshit me with this one. Look at this image over here on the left. Look at what we have here. Purple, Zaxx. I'm going to let you guys talk about what we're looking at. Look at this insanity.
Yeah, see, they're saying that this is, or the story that they're going with, this is a airliner that has, tragically fallen from the sky. This is wreckage, but this doesn't look like anything that I've ever seen. The way planes, very sadly crash. This is something that looks like it is spinning as it comes to ground. There's obviously chunks breaking off it. This looks like it's moving, way too fast to be anything other than, either something extraterrestrial or something that's has exploded.
100%. I also I think the same thing, that it looks like it's spinning to me, and it's oozing some kind of smoke, or I don't know what the contrail or whatever that would be, but looks like 4 different spots on it, and
Yeah,
it does look like it's spinning, and there's the black column in the middle of it. I can't believe that people think this is a plane,
yeah.
and it's falling directly out of the sky, which planes don't normally do if they're scheduled to land safely later on, which they're saying this one did. And I guess the last part is why is there no video? Because I've been looking too.
Yeah.
These are all pictures with phones, and you can't tell me that not one person took a video, because when I take pictures, here's a life hack. I usually take videos and then I later on pull a frame, because it's easier that way. And everyone does that. What is this? Why can we not find a video?
We're going to talk more about this, but this is the very first super chat for this show that we have ever gotten. I am honored. This comes from Taker610. And if you guys know me, you know I came up with UFO, paranormal, asteroid impact super chat videos. So you, Taker610, are going to get the very first one that I made. This is a $2 super chat. Thank you so very much. And it says, nature depicting Netflix and Disney stock price.
Yeah, that's good.
It's very true. And Purple, you did a show on that this morning with Mexican Iron Man. Talk about that a second while I go ahead and get that video.
Absolutely. Yeah, that you couldn't be more right. Take a 610. Yes. The stock price of both Netflix and Disney is in current free fall. So yeah, well observed. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who could imagine, pushing an agenda in grooming and exploiting the younglings, that wouldn't be a popular thing to make money off of. Taker 610, here is the very first phenomenal super chat video, and this one I think you're gonna like. What do you think?
That is so cool. I love that film.
Well, I had to play with some speeds and play with some other things to get it to work out right. But an asteroid impact, they happen all the time. And we're going to cover that probably not this week, but next week, as this needs to be a shorter show for Purple and for Zaxx and for me. But there is so much to cover on Phenomenal. There's so much to cover that comes from the skies, from the heavens. And Squeak a Mouse says what Zaxx was just talking about, which says most phones do a mini video when it photos. Anyway, it's true. I know with an iPhone, I do live, what is it? Live picture or whatever. So you get like about a second,
Yes, well, on one of the other articles that you sent us, it says that these photos were taken over a 45-second period.
Yeah.
So we know that there's footage out there.
Well, what's crazy is look at the resolution of these pictures. When I take pictures of things in the sky, they don't look like this with a phone.
That's true.
And again, I went to the source who originally posted these pictures on, it was on Twitter, and it was from Palmer, Alaska. And that account and that person are no longer on Twitter. And there's no responses. There's no trail to this. So it's crazy. And like I said, the pictures that we're seeing here are on one website, but all of these pictures, and in particular in chat, I'm going to bounce you out just because I want you to look at this. Again, focus on the picture that is over here on the right side. And it looks like something. I wouldn't even say a fantasy. I wouldn't even say science fiction. It looks like something from a fantasy movie with the tendrils coming out of it. Not only that, but in the contrail itself, there are those have got to be 1,000-foot sections of just the most black, murky thing mixed in with contrail. Now, jets do not do that. Okay, go ahead.
I got it. Okay.
What?
It's in Alaska, correct?
Roger that.
Alaska is next to Canada, and Denis Villeneuve is Canadian. It's a sandworm.
All right, it's been a great show, Zaxx. I mean, honestly, you guys, I am physically emotional about this because I couldn't find this picture, and then seeing it again, thanks to you guys, it's just, you can't tell me this is a jet. You can't tell me that.
But
and that's the cover story they're using.
Exactly. That's the official, in quotations, story that they're going with. It's said by troopers, upon further investigation, revealed that a large commercial jet was flying in that area around the time that the photos were taken. The aircraft was contacted and reported normal flight operations on its way to JFK Airport in New York. Does that look like it's doing normal flight operations?
No, it doesn't. And guess what else is, they say they did that check and that it was an airliner, but they also sent a search team.
Yeah.
Why would you send a search team?
And the story has changed because this was the original cover story, was that this was a cloud, and they omitted all of those other images we just looked at. This is what was circulating on CNN. I know, bastion of truth. Imagine them obfuscating things. MSNBC, ditto. But look at this. Oh yeah, it's a cloud, sure, except for that bright spinny diamond thing, which seems to be ejecting exhaust. But they really did omit the really spooky parts of the contrail to me, I've never seen anything like that before. Now, I do have some footage, or I do have a shot of something that I took, but it doesn't look very good because I took it with a phone off my deck when I lived in Washington State. But I didn't get any images that look like this, but I got something that looks like this, but far away and blurry. So, you guys, what is your take on this? Let's go down the line. And let's look at a better picture, because honestly, I mean, I'm so tired of being lied to and them thinking that, I mean, we're just the biggest bunch of morons. I mean, does this look like a jet to you?
To me, no, absolutely not. And Squeaker says, I'm surprised they didn't go for the meteor route. They did initially. That was another thing that they tried to say, that maybe that's what it is. You know, it's just space debris falling to Earth. But Paul Wolfley says it as well. You know, planes don't go down vertically. And that's one of the things that they were saying. Oh, it's just, you know, the way that these images were shot. They're not actually coming down vertically. It's flying as normal. Yeah, I'm not buying that. That looks like it's falling from the sky.
Zaxx, give me your take. Is this a commercial airliner?
There's no chance. And like Paul Wolfley said, planes don't go down vertically. They don't fall out of the sky like that in a smoking heap, unless they've been shot down by something possibly, but that's not the case here. And you could check, like, if they had something to show us video-wise with the trajectory to show us that it was actually coming down at an angle, then they would show that, but they don't have that to show us. So all we're seeing is this, which is, it's just dropping out of space.
Yes, and do you think that's why the footage has been scrubbed? Because that's what it actually does show.
I think that's a very plausible theory. And the other part I think about this is, I think this was in maybe not the upper atmosphere, but I think this was pretty damn high in altitude, so that it followed the curvature of the Earth a lot more than a commercial jetliner would. Because even if you're doing a trans-Pacific flight, it wouldn't look like this. I mean, again, having lived in far western Washington, which I did, you would never, ever see a plane at that altitude leaving a contrail like that ever, you know? And I lived on the flight path inbound from China and Japan and, you know, Russia, because they'd follow the Salish, the Strait of Juan de Fuca all the way into SeaTac, and nothing has ever looked like this. Now, I did see something like this, but it was in the atmosphere, and it was essentially I would say a lower upper atmosphere vehicle. But even then, it didn't have the crazy, creepy, like debris like tentacles coming off of it. You know, I just I don't know.
Don't tell me
Yes.
angles either. This isn't a dick pic, right? Like
It's true.
angles.
It's true.
Don't use
Well, yeah.
angles.
Okay. All right. Fair. I'm Bill Clinton defense. Fine. Okay. It's just, yeah. I mean, and it's again, we got, okay, this is just a cloud. That was the first thing. Then, oh, well, we're going to send out crash investigators. We're going to send out the Alaska State Patrol. We're going to send out the military. Oh, it's nothing. It was actually a jet that landed in Newark later that day. I'm sorry. I don't see it.
How many pieces of that jet landed in New York? Yeah.
I mean, that's the story. And again, if you look at over here on the far right with these 4, 5 tendrils, I don't see jet here. I just don't. This is just madness. And it's getting exhausting being lied to like this.
Well, and Kaylee says satellite. That could be. I could see that.
Possibly, but why wouldn't they tell us that it was a satellite that re-entered? Do you know what I mean? Here's another image. And again, let me see if I can zoom in without blowing everything up. You can see here, this is whatever is at the point of leaving this bizarre, black, weavy, crazy, evil-looking contrail. And I don't know. I don't see a plane. I don't see a plane at all. I see something vaguely silver and saucer-shaped.
Yeah, so the other most probable is that this is and I think Adega was talking about it, a missile, but from whom would be the next question, you know? Who is setting these off over Alaska?
And why wouldn't they say, because given the political climate, any opportunity to divert our attention from how much things cost at the grocery store, why wouldn't they blame it on
how much
Pootie,
is petrol at the moment? Yeah.
It actually went up 20 cents. I should have gassed up on my way to the dog park, and I drove back with the dog, and I was like, what the hell just happened? 20 cents on the time I went to the dog park. And I'm like, this is getting exhausting. It's just getting exhausting. Squeaka, you're right. If it's a commercial jetliner, there'd be chunks of it all over the place. But like I said, first of all, they said it was just a cloud. Nobody bought that. Now they're telling us it's a jetliner that landed in Newark. And I don't find either one of those. Now, here's a question, because we don't have a format for how to investigate this. Do we feel that this could be a good candidate for either an extraterrestrial type of event? And I'm not saying that means intelligent, but could this possibly have come from somewhere else, or do we think the government is not telling us the truth? Because I don't know how else to categorize it. Let's just do this. Do we think the government is telling us the truth about this event?
For me, I'm going to say no. I think there's much more to this story than we're being told. And I think because it's being buried, and because the footage is being scrubbed, and because these images, wherever you go looking for them, they've been cropped, or they're slightly out of focus now, whereas before they were a lot clearer. Something is not right.
What about you, Zaxx?
No, they're not telling us the truth, and they keep changing the story, and they change it based on the evidence that we've found. So they try to make it fit with what we're finding, and now at the same time they're disappearing footage. So no, I don't trust them.
Yeah. It's just this picture with this, whatever the hell is in that contrail, with those blacks, I don't know what it is. And you can see, it looks like pieces of it are falling off. This is not an airplane. This is not a commercial airplane. And as usual, and not for the first time, what is it that they are not telling us about this? What does chat seem to think? What do you guys think in chat? I know I put a poll up, and I'm going to check those results real quick. Thank you for voting on it. Let me take a quick look here at the results. So we have 17 votes. UFOs are. Now we have 35% says real, and I've seen one or more. We have 53%, which seems to be ahead, and I think it makes sense as maybe real, maybe not. Only 12% of the people out there saying no, the UFOs aren't real at all. So fascinating results. Thank you guys in chat for that. So yeah, anything. Wait, what do we got here? So this is from Adega Outlaw. It says Russia has significant advancements in Mach plus 5 missile systems. This is true. The lack of dissipating trail convinces me that it was extremely fast. Bingo. Absolutely bingo. And what is interesting, if it wasn't that particular country, is the propulsion system that is used by the country that is led by someone who looks like Winnie the Pooh. Now, what they use for their rocket propellant is a very dirty kerosene fuel mixture. It's not very efficient, and it is incredibly destructive on the actual environment. You know, it's not about straws and cow farts. It's actually not good to burn that kind of propellant, but hey, you know, they're Winnie the Pooh, you know, communist land, so I guess they get a pass, right?
Yes, they've got much more, you know, pressing matters than yes.
Yeah, but I gotta, I can't say that. Oh God, yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna pull another picture up, and right here, I'm sorry it's not very good, but this was, and I said this before, this is my own photo. And what you can see here, this was a rocket launch that occurred by the Chinese. Now, what you will note is let me see. Can you guys see my mouse when I'm in there? When I go on the screen. So you see the initial launch trajectory. Now, this was fired from an artificial island that country in Asia led by Winnie the Pooh. They built an artificial island in the middle of the Pacific to do things just like this. Now, they launched this multi-stage rocket, and it was some of the dirtiest, blackest, most horrifying looking contrail, if you want to call it that I've ever seen. And I've never seen anything like that in the sky other than in a science fiction movie. Well, what happens is that right here, this segment here, it looked horrifying. It looked like something out of the Transformers movie. It looked like something out of the Matrix with like that evil machine things trying to get Neo in the first movie, because there's only one Matrix movie. And but I apologize for but you can see this. And so I'm kind of leaning toward, this was from I'd say the best case is this was from a country which doesn't have the best of intentions for the Western world, based upon the signature of the propellant, which again, if this was a picture taken with an iPhone, and it didn't turn out very well, but it's the best. That's the best possible case, is it's either Russia or Winnie the Pooh land. The other thing it could be is it could have come from not this world, and they're not going to tell us. What do you guys think about that statement? Purple, Zaxx, what do you think?
Yes, for me, for this particular phenomenon that we're talking about, I would be inclined to think that it's more A rather than B. As you say, I live near an airport. I'm very familiar with the contrails that aeroplanes leave behind them, and these pictures look absolutely nothing like that. But they do match up quite closely with the picture that you took.
Yeah, and that's the best case. Zaxx, what's your take on that?
Well, I think that it has to be something that they don't want us to poke around and look at, because I think that's the only reason you give us the excuse that it's a plane that landed somewhere else. So don't come look here at all. If it was anything else that they would safely let us see, like a satellite or something else, then they would say that, and people would go and poke around and send drones and take photos, but they don't want that at all. So they're saying there's nothing to see here. So that tells me there's something to see there.
Yeah. And speaking of a country run by Winnie the Pooh that they don't want us to know things about, there's more that happened over Alaska, and I only just found it. Now, the way that they're going to approach this story, I just can't believe this, is they make a joke out of it. This comes to us from Live Science, and the title of the article is Chinese Rocket Photobombs. Yeah, cute. A Chinese rocket photobombs the Aurora with a spinning orb of light. This just happened 12 days ago. This one we do have video for. Go ahead.
Yes, and I love when we see these sort of spinning orbs of light, 'cause I think they're fascinating. This isn't the first time in the past, I'd say probably 5 years so, that we've seen these sort of phenomenon, but they always look fantastic every time that they're captured on film. But it's worth noting that Alaska is a UFO hotspot. Of all the places in the US, I think it's places like Alaska, Canada, California, I believe, as well. All of these places are really a lot of eyewitness testimonies of weird things in the sky.
Now, I'm going to show you this video, but this is the official story. So what we're about to see is nothing to worry about. It's perfectly normal, happens all the time, and it's only just an unusual ball that was most likely caused by debris from a rocket passing overhead.
Oh, that makes you feel so much better.
Wait, just hold that thought. Hold that thought, and let's get to the video. Now, here we go. Does that look like debris coming off of a rocket to you? And I can't slow it down, and I apologize for that, but
it looks like the quality that you can get from children in a sweatshop building a rocket.
Or a camp where you have to concentrate. Yeah,
that's right.
So they're saying that that's this crazy thing with the streak behind it that's causing this phenomena is just because the aurora was in the background, and somehow that this rocket disintegrating caused a perfect sphere of bright translucent light on an aurora, which, as you can see, is slight in green in the background.
It seems to be moving uniformly too. That's the other thing. Like it looks like it's being propelled, not falling as debris.
Now, where you live, Zaxx, go ahead, Purple.
I was just agreeing with this. Yes, this doesn't look like anything that they're trying to convince us that it is.
They stopped trying to convince us, I think. They've given up. It's debris. The plane landed somewhere else. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's Casper the Friendly Ghost. Don't worry about it. It's an Elon Musk light show. That's what it is. We have another super chat again from Taker610. Thank you, brother. Says this is for $5. Says, when I watched Signs, I do like that movie, and it's Mel Gibson. And you know what other movie Mel Gibson is in? Purple.
Braveheart.
Yes, you just made Flaccid Phoenix very happy. So
you did.
When Taker610 says, when I watched Signs, I was legitimately spooked until they showed the aliens. I couldn't take it seriously after that. What did you guys think of it? Let me go ahead and give you we have another one. I'm going to give you one of the woo-woo show. Which one do I want to give you? Let's give you this one, Taker610, then we'll answer that question. I do love that movie, by the way. So, hail to you, Taker610. Yeah, you guys, what do you think? I'm going to let you answer. You guys go first. Zaxx, let's start with you just to uphold the patriarchy, then go to Purple, and then I'll answer. What did you think about, first of all, what did you think about Signs? And then what did you think about the aliens in Signs?
I liked Signs when I saw it. It was probably his last good film, possibly, M. Night Shyamalan. And but I felt that it was kind of telegraphed his twist, but you're always looking for a twist in his films now, so you knew it was going to be water related. I don't remember. I think that they would have been better off not showing the alien as well, but it didn't take me out of it.
Yes, I would agree with that. I like Signs. I thought it was a pretty good film back when I first saw it. I thought the aliens were kind of stupid, obviously, because spoilers, if anyone hasn't seen the film, their weakness, they come to a planet that's absolutely covered in the one thing that they cannot actually touch. So why would you come here in the first place?
Yeah, the planet's like 70% water. You know, you could probably find someplace else. But...
Yeah, just saying, you might want to just skip this one and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that I think that the scariest thing was the kids' asthma attacks.
Yeah.
Yes.
I what I did like about the aliens was the camouflage. I thought that was cool. Like when the alien has the plaid pattern of the flannel shirt that they were wearing, I thought that was fantastic. But the aliens, they did look very cheesy 1950s rubber suit aliens. They did.
Yes.
I think you could have done a lot more with that, but I did love the story. I really did, you know?
Yeah, I thought Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix had great chemistry. I
Absolutely.
liked it, I really did. But yeah, the aliens, once you kind of saw them, and I think a couple of his other films, The Village as well, once you do get the twist, it sort of falls apart. It's building the suspense, but he can't actually kind of pull it off. I think is M. Night Shyamalan's problem.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here is a still image from that video that was on loop. And the reason why it was on loop is that there is a high resolution camera that is set up there in Alaska for the sole purpose of capturing the aurora and letting people come and look at the aurora, because that's one thing obviously here, especially in Texas, I'll never see. I would see it very faintly in Washington State. And when I grew up as a kid, when I grew up very close to the Canadian border in the 80s, there was so much sunspot activity. It was like the sky was on fire all the time. If you haven't seen the aurora, it is truly a magnificent thing. One thing it doesn't look like is a glowing, translucent white ball moving in a straight line. Now, Zaxx, you live in Canada, and you probably get to see the aurora more than a lot of people do, even if you're in the city. Give me your take. Would anything look like that, somehow magically taking the green light of the aurora and become white? Does that happen all the time in Canada?
No, that never happens at all. It would stand out very strongly here, especially if there's no light pollution. But yeah, it's obviously nothing to do with the aurora.
What are they? It's just they really think we're this stupid. They really do. I mean, I guess they do. Look what they're doing to Lord of the Rings. Look what they did to the Wheel of Time. Yeah. So that mysterious orb was just caused by a frozen cloud of fuel left behind by a Chinese rocket. So,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
That's how that works.
Bullshit.
Yes. It's a weather balloon, guys. Yes, we'll go back to that. It's
Why
called
not?
Chinese rocket fuel travels in a circle because reasons.
It's a beautiful shot, though. I mean, just looking at it, it looks fantastic. I'd love to see if there was a slightly better resolution, if they could get it, or if there was a longer shot.
Yeah, I might try and download this and slow it down, because I want to see. It doesn't make any sense. This does not make any sense, and it seems to shift as it gets lower in altitude.
It does, yeah. And there is a line here that says this cloud is probably hundreds of miles across. That's why it looks so big. So this isn't low to the tree line. This is something that is high up in the atmosphere.
Where there's not a lot of oxygen and it's cold. Yeah, I'm sure. Of course. Yeah, it's all this story makes sense to me. So what do you guys think? We'll start with the obvious question. Do you think this is what they say it is? Do you think this is just a traveling sentient ball of frozen gas that at high altitude suddenly becomes luminescent and travels in a straight line?
I'm going to say no for that one.
Okay. What about you, Zaxx?
I think that they might be trolling us with these explanations. Like, I would respect that if they were just messing with us. We'll see. What will they believe? And there's a lot of dumb people, so maybe it works most of the time when they get a big kick out of it. I don't know.
It's like trying to use a t-shirt to stop a virus. Oops, I said that.
No.
Same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. But yeah, I literally okay, and I agree with you guys. The second thing I'm going to say, do we think that this is something that is naturally occurring, and that is there a high probability that we are making something out of nothing, or that this is something that is really weird?
Is this northern swamp gas? Is that what this is going to be?
Yeah, it's a translucent weather balloon that is thousands of miles wide, and I can't even make jokes about this. Such bullshit. I mean, this is not what they say it is. There's no other way. You guys go ahead.
You know what? I'm surprised they didn't go for the ball lightning excuse, which has been used before. Yeah, it's just, it's a completely clear sky, but lightning, yes.
You can see the stars and the planets. This is a high definition night oriented camera to allow the aperture. You can see the gradient in the sky of the blue with the black and the stars and the aurora. And that's what's so crazy about this, is that the resolution we're getting on this is insane. And what's even more insane is that anyone using their eyes would know that we're not being told the truth, in my opinion.
And Brett Rose has a good question, though. When was the video taken?
This, we actually have a watermark on it, and that's the beautiful thing about some of these cameras. This was shot on March of this year on the 29th. There it is, 29th at around almost 5 a.m. Alaska time a couple of weeks ago. Tuesday, March 29th of this year at around 5 a.m.
Yeah. It's something being propelled by something.
Yeah, things don't move in a straight line organically. Things don't, unless at a high altitude they have to be propelled. You have asteroids that come in straight lines. You have things that come in because of gravity, but in this case, I don't know, and it's got some weird tail on the back.
Yes, it does seem to have a tail coming off it, or a trail. And again, these shots have been taken. It says every 45 seconds, so people can experience the northern lights. So this camera took 6 shots of the orbs, which suggests that it was visible for at least 4.5 minutes. So this thing was traveling across the sky for quite a fair amount of time. So I would be really curious to see if more people managed to capture this. I know, as you say, it was very early in the morning, so it's a little bit more unlikely than the previous one we were talking about, but it's still fascinating.
Squeaker Miles nailed it. She says it's obviously a volleyball game played too close to a camera at night with a glow ball. Come on. Hey, you know what? You sound like you watch the X-Files. You've got it all figured out. Thank you, Squeaker Miles.
I think Squeaker might be working for the government,
I do. You're like related to the smoking man. Remember that from the X-Files? That guy that's always burning Scully and Mulder when they were getting close to the action. We got another comment from the Equalizer. It says, I have to say this. It was a video of an alleged pterodactyl flying in the air. It was robotic and it was obviously forged. Yet people swore that it was a real video and that this isn't interesting, and that pterodactyls exist today. You know what? I've seen Jurassic Park. In this case, what we're looking at here, I've never seen anything like this. This is just, I hate to use the word orb, but that is correct. This is not a crop circle. This is something I don't understand this. And maybe there's some complex thing that can happen at a certain time with the right angle with the sun, but it's like I've never seen anything move like that at that altitude, moving at that speed with that kind of luminescence, because it has multiple, it looks like there's a more firmer, solid core with a different kind of a semi-visible outer aura to it. I don't even know.
I'm not a biologist, so I can't really tell you.
That's true. Yeah, if we can't tell men from women, how the hell can we tell about aliens and what's in the sky, right?
Yes, and it is interesting just to go down to the end of this article. Again, they kind of pull out the rocket excuse, and they say that this is a rocket that's tumbling. That's why it's spherical, and that's why there's a little bit of a tail behind it as they go into free fall. Rockets, spin. This thing doesn't look to be spinning. This thing looks to be a solid ball of light.
Yeah. And we've got Steve Kenobi here. Hail, brother. Hey. You and I have played tag talking about Dragonlance book covers and art for many months. Thank you so much for being on the show. I would love to talk with you someday. You and Ms. Martin, you guys are fantastic. If you haven't subscribed, go check out Ms. Martin. Go check out Steve Kenobi. Great channel, great guy, great work. He says satellites move in a straight line. Can see them fairly easily up here in Norway during winter. Hail to you. We can see them here where I am in Texas because I live in a dark sky sanctuary. So we don't have streetlights, and it is dark AF here at night. I can see all the stars, and I can see some of the Milky Way, and I can see satellites going over too. So when it's a full moon here, it is eerie to look outside because it is so bright. It reminds me of being a kid in the 70s again, living out in the middle of nowhere. So you're right. Light pollution, if you're in the cities, you're missing so much. You really are. And in this case, obviously in Alaska, they've got one hell of a dark sky. And God, this is just amazing. I don't know, Stieg. I don't think you're inferring that it's a satellite. I'm pretty sure you're not. I've never seen anything like this before. Stieg goes on. He says, "I've seen a UFO twice. Not sure what it was, but it moved very strangely." Let's go ahead and thank you for that segue, Stieg. Let's go ahead and Purple. I know we should probably go maybe another half an hour for you, and I know Zaxx has to go as well. Let's talk about maybe some of our own personal experiences, and then get a little bit into this article that I think we could probably do a whole show on, related to people that have actually filed claims, and they are documented by the United States government as being injured and have had illnesses related to unidentified flying objects. And no, I'm not making that up. This is real. It's just a classified.
Yes, I have not been lucky enough yet to have a UFO sighting. It's one of the things that I would absolutely love to see. I've been to plenty of places around the world, and I haven't been fortunate enough yet to see anything. But it's one of those things. I think once you do have that experience, it really changes you as a person. No matter what you see, I would imagine it's almost affirming to think that, you know, we're not alone, especially if it's something that you cannot explain.
Yeah, and Kayla Dare, hail to you, Kaylee, my wolf sister, says, when she was 11 or so, she used to feel eyes watching me at night. To this day, I still can't sleep with my back to the door. Fascinating. Kaylee, if you haven't subscribed, I'd like to shout out somebody that I really, I am a big fan of, and I've bought his books and I've read them, and that would be, it's a channel on YouTube called Missing 411. And he talks a lot about that type of thing, and it's mostly related to being in the outdoors and just incredible disappearances, especially in national parks here in the United States, provincial parks in Canada, but also disappearances in the UK, Australia, and all around the world, where, you know, bodies can disappear, but backpacks, boots, synthetic materials, ski poles, jackets, they don't just disappear, and these people have never been found. So if you really want to be spooked out in a good way, this isn't he just gives you the facts, doesn't tell you what to think. David Paulides, Missing 411. So hail to you. Zaxx, what about you? Have you had any close encounters of the woo kind?
Well, first I want to address Kaylee's comment in saying that it's not a joking matter at all, but and unrelated to that, really, where was Flaccid Phoenix when you were 11? Do you think? Huh?
You know, we talked about this before the show. I mean, Flaccid is he's connected. I mean, we're talking about the guys in the white vans with the black suits, with the earpieces and the sunglasses, and you don't want to talk about them. And they're real, and Flaccid is and was one of them. So we have to tread carefully. I am, of course, joking, but it's not only half a joke. Let's just say that. So yeah. Squeak Mouse says, "Don't get me started on what weird things I've felt, but I'm just weird too." Well, Squeak, you are. You and I have live streamed together. You are. I am too. And Zaxx is even weirder than we are. And Purple's weird in her own wonderful, cute way. But that's Sixth Sense, and we talked about it on the very first Woo Woo show. Is we only use, and somebody was tearing me up. You guys would not believe some of the things people said to that video that we made on Skinwalker Ranch, ridiculing us and telling us we didn't know what we were talking about, and you know, and basically just poo-pooing it on it all. And they're saying, yeah, you know, you're lying. Humans don't use only just a couple % of their brains. We use all the brain capacity, and it's like, that's not true. And I still am convinced that there are those of us who have that. And I think we all do have, and Zaxx, you talked about it as the unifying theory of the paranormal. I think that part of that too is we as humans have a lot more senses than we have turned on right now. And I don't know if those fuses were blown out at a genetic level because something traumatic happened to us in the past, so that we just had to become creatures of survival and not have more, all of the senses and all of the experience that we could of this world, especially that of other vibrations, other, I'm just going to say it, other resonances and dimensions that we might be able to access or see. I know people talking about ayahuasca, and Joe Rogan talks about that stuff, and machine elves and all that, but I don't know. I think there's a lot more to us, and I think that maybe if we just get some of our wiring done, redo it a little bit, or just lean into it. That's what I'm going to say. Lean into those senses, lean into the sixth sense, lean into that intuition. That I think then the world will keep opening. What do you guys think about that?
Yes, we talked about it on the last show, as you say. I think it's a fascinating concept, and I think people were saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." I think there is more to us as a species than we know, and we're discovering more and more about ourselves as we go. And I think there are people out there that are much more attuned to this sort of thing than others, and that's why they get called crazy, or they get called conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about those responses to that video, guys, is that I took it further and asked some more questions back, like in a positive way, right? Like, where would you guys go for references, and where would you go to look up information about this and verify things? And what do you trust? What are the sources you guys trust? And he kept redirecting me to the Skinwalker Ranch TV show. So seriously, so that's what we're dealing with there.
God, if we had another hour, I would go down this rabbit hole, because like we talked about in the first two-part video, Robert Bigelow invested heavily in Skinwalker Ranch. Now, the documents we're about to look at are from a now defunct, very well-funded program by the United States Department of Defense. I mean, very, very well-funded. So much so that a Freedom of Information Act finally released 1,500 pages of paranormal and UFO and unidentified surface object, everything woo-woo alien spaceship stuff out there. It is still partially redacted for a variety of reasons, but Bigelow was part of that show and a producer of that show, but he was still actively there and spent a lot of money looking for something at Skinwalker, and I still stand by what I said. They found something there, and it's not on the History Channel. This is obfuscation. This is, don't look at what the right hand is doing here. Look at the sock puppet on the left. That's what I think. Let me get to the super chat from Taker 610. Thank yous for $2. Says, could we rule out the angel Gabriel doing his rounds? Well, I can. I can.
If it was closer to Christmas, they could have said it was Santa, I suppose.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, it was Santa with swamp gas and a weather balloon. That's obviously what this stuff is.
And machine elves.
Yes.
And machine elves. Hey, the machine elves are real. We should have a whole show about ayahuasca. And I'm not saying on it, but about it. That's all I'm going to say. Taker 610. Here comes another boo-boo video for you. And yes, I did make all of those through clipping and changing speeds and adding sound effects and music. So they're a little rough, but they're kind of cool, I think. So yeah. And Kayla Air, ghosts. We're going to have a show about ghosts. I got some real ghost stories. So hail to you. Kayla Air says, I heard ghosts a few times.
Sorry, man.
No, it's okay. What? Yeah, it's all right.
I took it down as if you start reading it.
It's okay. So let's go ahead and pivot into this other article, and we will, because this is a shorter show, this will probably occupy us for the remaining half hour, and I need to pull it up because I have unfortunately a million things open right now. You asked about me with UFOs, and no, I have never seen one, but it's not for lack of trying. Here we do a thing called we really do call this. We go looking for UFOs, but usually that was in high school, and almost always it was to take a girl to go for a drive to the country to go look for UFOs. And, yeah, not a ton of time looking at the sky though.
Are you suggesting you had ulterior motives, Zaxx?
I'm telling you directly. I had ulterior motives.
Oh, that's that Canadian toxic masculinity. That's what
But
that is.
That's what we called it. We did say that. Look for UFOs.
I have seen things that I don't understand, and I want to be careful about how I say it. But I saw something when I was this is back in the mid 70s. So my grandfather had a 1973 Ford Mercury Montego. For those of you under the age of 30, that is a big car like they drive in the old 70s movies, and it's about 20 feet long, and most of it is hood. And we were driving, my grandpa and my grandma were driving out in the middle of nowhere in farm country, literally nowhere, in the broad daylight. And something came overhead that looked like it was straight out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind or Fourth Kind or whatever it is. And I hadn't seen that movie. It hadn't come out yet. And I experienced something like a time distortion. I didn't know what that was. And my grandparents never moved, but they didn't seem to interact with me, but I seemed to be moving at a different speed, and it's really hard to articulate things that a 6 or a 7-year-old brain tells you, but it was really weird. And I felt like very static charged. And that was the first time I've seen that. Now, I've also spent a great deal of time in the Appalachia. I used to hike on the Appalachian Trail in Outward Bound, and I saw some things out there. Not entirely sure what they were. That's all I'm going to say. There's a lot of crazy things around mountains, and the Appalachians are some of the oldest mountains, not just in America, but in the world. They used to be the size of the Andes, and through time and millions of years of erosion, they're now kind of, smoky, kind of big hills, very, very small mountains, and saw some really crazy things there, and none of them are weather balloons or swamp gas. That's all I'm going to say. So let's get to this article, which this blew my mind, and I have been excited to talk about this for quite a while. This comes from multiple sources, but let's go with this one from The Sun. And this one, the graphic should start telling you what we're talking about here. These are some of the symptoms of people that have had close encounters or interactions with unidentified flying and surface-based phenomena that has resulted in a tangible negative outcome. Burnt skin, recurring traumatic nightmares, headaches, heart palpitations, nosebleeds, fever, hair loss. Those are the lucky ones in some of these reports. So the title of this is Space Invaders, UFOs Left Witnesses with Radiation Burns because every day, brain problems, damaged nerves. And this is not according to The Sun. This is according to Pentagon documents that were released within the last week or two. Look at the date, April 5th, 2020. It's funny how I haven't heard anybody in the media really talking about this extensively. Have you guys?
No, I haven't seen anyone covering it.
Not at all.
Yep. So this is on letterhead from, of course, the Pentagon. This is the Defense Intelligence Reference Document, which again released this was actually recorded back on March 10th. So that's when this documentation was created as a presentation within the DoD or Department of Defense. So we've got a mouthful here. We've got anomalous acute and subacute field effects on human biological tissue. And again, it says unclassified. For official use only. There would be classified, top secret, most secret, and other things like that. This is not made up, guys. This just came out. And it's some of these are pretty serious. The report prepared by the Defense Intelligence Agency warns that subjects such as UFOs, quote, are threats to the United States interests. Humans have been found to have been injured, and they do document the numbers on this in this report, have been found to be injured from exposures to anomalous vehicles, especially airborne and when in close proximity to it. Let's just stop right here. Zaxx, what are you thinking? What are you feeling here?
There we go. That's better. Sorry, I was getting a lot of interference then. Everything was very robotic sounding, so I had to mute just to make sure it wasn't something end.
I didn't know that. This has happened before when we talked about this stuff. I'm sorry about that chat. Whenever I talk about things like this is exactly what happens on YouTube. I'm not kidding. How bad was it? Do you want me to try rereading it?
No, it's fine. I think it was probably with me. I don't think the chat noticed, but it is very strange, as you say, that every time we try to talk about this, there is some connection issues that go on, that happen.
And other people as well. I've seen that happen to Cameron Pasha a couple of times.
Yes.
It is weird. Sorry. It is just weird because Purple, we talked about it. We joked about it. When we tried to record this stuff, we tried to, now there's werewolves. And when we tried to record this stuff, we had the same problems. And it wasn't until I started to say the word UFO when audio started to get weird. But go ahead, Purple. I'm sorry. Or Zaxx. If Zaxx hasn't been eaten by a werewolf, we want to hear from you too. So.
Yeah, this is a fascinating, as you say, what that talking about, and this isn't just one or two cases. This is 42 cases, and they've all got similar encounters. They've all got the very similar things that have happened to them, and a lot of these sound like radiation sickness, at least to me.
I'm going to read this sentence, and then Zaxx, I want you to talk, but it says the report noted that often, and again, this is from the Pentagon, this is from the United States Department, this came through a Freedom of Information Act, and this information was released within the last 2 weeks. This report noted that often these injuries are related to electromagnetic radiation and links them to, quote, energy-related propulsion systems from unidentified aerial vehicles. Go ahead, Zaxx. I just had to get that out of my system.
I think that they've what they've done here though too is to bury the most credible cases and injuries with people who are saying they were impregnated by aliens. Like those kinds of things are also in here, and that really hurts. They do that on purpose, I think, to make it so that you don't find anything that you can find credible, right? Because you hear that, and that's obviously ridiculous. But the ones that interest me the most are the pilots.
Yeah.
Because pilots are trained, and their job is to be able to read instruments and see what's coming at them. And when we have pilots reporting these things, when they know that if they report this and people think they're a crazy person, they can't be a pilot anymore. So there's some personal risk involved there. And in many cases, they have physical injuries. So a pilot, and there was one that I saw, he had radiation burns, and he reported seeing something that that flew in front of them, and he had the injuries to prove it. That all lines up for me. So I want to see things like that. Get rid of the other 1,000 that are just off the wall and focus on the important ones that there's an entire story for. That's what I want to see.
But it's deliberate. It's burying it. Just like with all of these other articles, we're seeing a pattern, and we're not the only ones. There are people who have been tracking this. I mean, that we know of, really going back to the 40s, but there are also events that are recorded going back to when Europeans first started to come to the Americas. And then before that, there's undoubtedly things in the oral traditions of Native American tribes across all of the Americas, North, South America, with things that they have seen in the sky. And I know ancient aliens took some of those things and ran with it and turned it into batshit crazy. But that the fact remains that there has been phenomena that has been ongoing, that has been unexplained for centuries. Now here we are in our lifetime. We have a report coming out that if this would have come out when I was a kid in the 70s or 80s, it would have changed the world. Now it's buried, and people are worrying about, Will Smith and Jada Plinkett and whatever, and right. I'm not saying those things don't have value, but like Zaxx just said, this is things that people have waited their whole lives to get validated, and it's buried, and they have to insult us and insult all those people by putting in the people who say I was abducted by little green men when really they're just junkies who live behind the Circle K. I mean, it's like right. That's what they do. It's obfuscation, and it's meant to dilute real good data on something that is so important to so many people. Let me read this one quote. It says, sufficient accidents have been accurately reported, and the medical data acquired has to support a hypothesis that some advanced systems are already deployed and opaque to full U.S. understandings. Now, that is Pentagon speak. Purple can tell you, I cut a lot of things out that about my time working over there, we'll just say that. And that what this translated means, it really is that there have been enough accidents, enough people have been hurt, probably killed. There's enough actual scientific medical data and laboratory research that's been done to support the theory that something much more advanced than we currently know of, are aware of, and our enemies or our allies do not have, and that no one knows what the hell is going on. That's pretty much what that statement says. We'll go on here. The medical analysis, while not require the intervention of alternative biophysics, do indicate the use to us of unconventional and advanced energy systems based upon the medical analysis. Tell me what you think about that, Purple and Zaxx.
Yeah, so this, as you say, this is them kind of being a little bit cagey about how much they give to the general public, but reading between the lines, this is something that they don't actually can really explain, especially when it comes to things like brain damage, nerve damage, as it says, unconventional and advanced. So that implies that it's not coming from us.
Yeah.
What's weird is, I mean, I'm not a big UFO follower. You know, I don't go to conventions or anything like that. But you know, I've had my own experiences of something I can't explain. This article, this is the crazy part. There is this big research thing around the world called MUFON, and that's the civilian. It is the largest private group of citizens that get together to share UFO research. And it's kind of the guys, you remember in the X-Files that they'd make fun of, the three dudes that, you know, Mulder and, you know, Scully and Mulder would kind of make fun of, but these guys are serious, and they approach it using the scientific method because a lot of them are scientists, and yeah, some of them are nuts too, but the Pentagon credited this civilian UFO research agency with providing a useful database which listed the biological effects of UFO sightings on humans, as well as their frequency, and they incorporated that into their final report. I don't know whether to laugh or cry or be terrified of that.
Yes, and what I find fascinating, I think you touched on it earlier as well, saying about, you know, they've added, you know, some of the more outlandish ones, you know, to kind of muddy the water, I guess. But we have less and less reports of people actually having alien abductions. But what we are getting more and more of is sightings, and that seems to tie in with what people are suffering now. So people see something fly overhead, and then they get sick afterwards.
Zaxx, this is just what you were talking about. It's like they're going to immediately go to the sensational and say bizarre occurrences such as apparent abduction, unaccounted for pregnancy, sexual encounters, telepathy, blood. You know, it's the usual go to the most, you know, bizarre claims and ignore the fact that there are people that were actually physically harmed by this stuff.
And it's the same thing with MUFON that they've done, where they've just, you know, there are some people in there who are either, you know, different, I guess I would say, or they're acting that way on purpose. And so because of that, when I think MUFON, for whatever reason, I think Chris Farley, and I don't know why that is, but that's the first thing that comes to mind to me. And but they do have scientists there, and they do have data, and they do collect it, and they use a scientific method. But you know, that's not how people talk about them. And the thing too I want to say about all of these things is, just because we don't know what it is doesn't mean it's 100% an alien. But it means that there's something, and these pilots didn't fry their own faces in flight. Something caused it.
I just want to do this because I'm a little paranoid. How's my audio, you guys?
Sounds good, yeah. Sounds great.
Okay. I'm going to call out. We have Doviande say Tovius again. Hail to you, brother. Great to see you. We're talking about real UFO stuff released by the Pentagon. So great to have everybody on the chat. Thunder Sensei says, just think it'd be so lonely in the universe if we're the only life out there. Fair. And somebody out there maybe, you know, has got a better plan than Klaus Schwab. I don't know. Just I'm willing to entertain other options. Yeah, there was a statement in this document that said, and I quote, classified information exists that is highly pertinent to the subject of this study, and only a small part of the classified literature has been released.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Tiny
and
little taste.
just to piggyback off what you were saying, Justin, even Arthur C. Clarke himself said there are two possibilities exist. We're either alone or we're not, and both are equally terrifying.
That's true. And again, all of this comes from a 1,500 page that was released by the Defense Intelligence Agency thanks to a Freedom of Information Request Act. And this was related to the Pentagon's secretive UFO program, the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. Again, that was a program that was awash with a lot of money. They got a lot of money and a lot of people, I think, lined up at Pigs to the Trough for that. It took 4 years for this Freedom of Information fact to be honored, and that 1,500 documents, including scientific reports and letters from the Pentagon. Now, there are omissions. They say some portions must be withheld in part due to privacy and confidentiality, but the DIA says that they have not withheld any reasonable, segregatable, non-exempt portions of the record. Tell me about your scoff. Purple. Tell me about your scoff.
Yes, I'm thinking that that's not entirely true, that they went through a lot of these records with a very fine-tooth comb and cherry-picked the ones that they thought, would be the best to release. And I would imagine for everything that was released and put into that report, there's probably 10 times as much that's still under lock and key, and we probably will not be seeing it anytime soon.
We've got Hail to You post on says, I grew up in southern New Mexico. Family was on site while at White Sands missile. This stuff is my life. Hail to You, I know what you're talking about. There's a lot of interesting things occurring at White Sands testing ground. At least that's what they used to call it. A lot of interesting things. We should have a show about that crazy thing they keep seeing all over South and Central America, that huge triangle-shaped unidentified phenomenon, but that is another show. Post on says Bigelow took over MUFON, and that's what's crazy about this. Thank you for that segue, because MUFON's past director, John F. Schlesler, compiled all of these UFO-related human physiological effects, which again, the Pentagon included and referenced as useful in their own program. We've got 120 apparent abductions, electromagnetic effects on vehicles. That's that scene, where a UFO is overhead and the car shuts off like it's an EMP. 77 cases of that. We have cases of paralysis, perceived time loss. So these are the top occurring events. Light beam effects, eye injuries, including temporary and permanent blindness due to light, heat burns, medical exams, multiple burns, unconsciousness, marks on body, physiological and emotional shock, and intense ongoing fear. This is out of science fiction movies, and it's here in the Pentagon documentation. And this is what they gave us. I mean, I keep coming back to that. I think they give us a cracker while they're eating a steak. That's the way I look at it. They're giving us like a saltine and they're wolfing down a prime rib,
Tossing you some scraps. Yes.
Yeah.
You talk about the government too with these things, and it's not just about stuff like what we're talking about today, but there was a school in New Jersey where there's 107 cases of the same kind of brain tumor that the students had, and they're saying, well, it could be a coincidence. It's definitely not a coincidence, but they do that with all of these things with us.
Yeah, it's like they're jerking our chain, and again, I think there's maybe some elements of truth to this, but it's like, I think this is where we go. This was the interview. I think, Zaxx, I may let you take the lead on this. This has to do with the bombshell sighting of that Tic Tac UFO video. You guys remember that? We've shown this on the channel before. Now, one of the pilots who chased that was obviously a U.S. serviceman in the Navy. This ATIP program was responsible for investigating that and following up. And of course, Bigelow was part of that. Do you remember the name of those two gentlemen that we referenced for Skinwalker? Purple, both from the Defense Intelligence Agency. What was oh boy, I forget their names, but they were also involved in Skinwalker.
Yes, yes, they were. Off the top of my head, I don't, but I could certainly pull the names up in a moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bigelow was involved in that as well, Robert Bigelow. So the bombshell videos, if we all saw with the Tic Tac video, one of the pilots hinted at potential health effects from chasing that UFO, and that has been revealed in this. Can you guys believe this? That has finally been reported in this report from the Defense Intelligence Agency. It was reported in an interview with GQ magazine. The pilot was asked what kind of health effects and other phenomenon pilots may suffer. And it says, quote, "I've got to be careful." This is the pilot talking. It's a military pilot talking.
Yeah.
So I've got to be careful. I can't speak too specifically, but one might imagine that you'd get a report from a pilot who says, "Lou, it's really weird. I was flying and I got close to this thing and I came back home and it was like I got a sunburn. I was red for days." Well, that's a sign of radiation. That's not a sunburn. It's a radiation burn. And then a pilot might say, if they got a little too close, it'd say, "Lou, I'm at the hospital. I've got symptoms that are indicative of microwave damage, meaning internal injuries. And even in my brain, there's some morphology there." This is a pilot. So what did they had to do? They had to tell about the crazy people that, that were wandering around, probably drunk, drinking their 40s, meth heads talking about being abducted and implanted. They have to tell us that first to bury the fact that we have a pilot who is saying, "You know what? I can't say exactly," but he starts playing the hypothetical game that maybe these pilots actually experienced pretty traumatic things. Now, microwave damage is no joke. It actually cooks your cells. It causes the rapid expansion and hyperactivity of the water in your cells. That's why microwaves are really dangerous. That's why your food cooks, because all of the water molecules are frenzied. You don't want to do that to the human body, and you don't want to do that to your brain. So this is crazy. You guys kick this one around a little bit. Tell me what you think about this.
I think that for this case, this is one of the best examples that I've found of evidence, because how many people out there would recognize a UFO if they saw it? Almost nobody. There's a very small percentage of people who are trained like this pilot would have been to recognize the movements and the speed of a Tic Tac and think anything else of it. Most people wouldn't. And then to follow it and to track it, and then to have people back up your claims with your instruments that you've got, which are still fairly new. Like, these are all new abilities we've just gained, and people who are highly trained to recognize these things are telling us that what they're seeing, and then they have physical evidence of what's happened to them as a result, and it gets buried with my cousin knocked me up on a UFO. And it's all of that needs to get pushed aside, and cases like this are the only ones we really need to talk about, because there's video evidence. There's eyewitness evidence of people who know what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And the ones that we talked about previously was intelligence officer James Lakatsky and Colin Kelleher.
Thank you, Purple.
Yes, it is fascinating, as you say, and we talked about it in the previous show. These are people that are trained to report things that they see. They're not prone to flights of fancy. They are very straightforward in what they see, and if this is what they said they witnessed, then that is what they saw. Why would they make things up?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And now, I mean, again, this freedom of information, this information just came out. This isn't something that's been lying around for a couple of years and we're just sifting through the ashes. Now we've got an interview with someone who was a serviceman, who was an aviator, and I'm presuming for the Navy, talking about, in an offhanded way where he's not going to get in trouble, about the fact that it is very likely one of his buddies told him when he was chasing that Tic Tac UFO, and I'm going to paraphrase, that in doing so, he got a sunburn, which is actually a radiation burn, and that was
Mhm.
microwave radiation, which actually resulted in him going to the hospital and now having some type of potentially cancer in his brain from chasing something. Now, the question I have is, they were not right up on top of that Tic Tac UFO doing Mach 5 and
Mhm.
turning right angles. They were staying back and barely keeping up with it. They weren't in close proximity to that vehicle.
Right.
Did that vehicle use some type of offensive or defensive weapon against our pilots that resulted in radiation burns?
Mm.
It's a weird question. Just throwing that one out there.
Thinking like a pulse or something was sent out.
Whatever it wasn't good. What do you think,
Mhm.
Zaxx?
I think if it's I think it's more concerning if it wasn't, if this thing is just giving off that amount of energy to power itself, and what would it take for something to give off that kind of energy as a side effect, and it's not being done on purpose. Like that's power there. That's concerning to me.
Yeah. And like Purple, when we talked about Skinwalker Ranch, this is the same agency that was responsible for being involved in that investigation. And
Mhm.
Robert Bigelow was involved in that as well. And those U.S. servicemen, when they came home, reported seeing phenomena that was very similar to that they had experienced at Skinwalker Ranch, but also the pilots and people involved in investigating this same Tic Tac UFO incident also brought home some type of resonance with them, where they were experiencing this same crazy phenomena back in DC, back in Northern Virginia, when they returned back home.
Mhm.
Whatever this is, I don't want to say I'm happy, but what I am is I am intellectually, I feel validated. I think there's a lot of people much older than any of us who were called a lot of names for a lot of, and giving them this little bit. I think, like anything else, I think this is a big pile of cat litter, and I think there's maybe a couple diamonds in
Yeah,
this. That's what I think.
That's a great analogy.
You know, I'm the king of analogies and segues.
Well, and the thing is too with these pilots is, for me, I know I'm stick on the pilot stuff, but unless Pawn Stars has lied to me, there's people who can come in and say this scribble is a Monet for sure, and we believe them because that's what they're trained to tell us.
Mhm.
And these pilots are saying we don't have anything that can do that, and we're saying, well, maybe he's not right. It's ridiculous.
You know what else is ridiculous is a gentleman by the name of Robert Bigelow was given a contract for $12 million and was the only contractor to bid on the work related to, quote, this is again quoting Pentagon documents, advanced aerospace weapon threats from the present to 40 years in the future.
Mhm.
Now, I've read some things where there is a certain United States senator by the name of Harry Reid, who I am no fan of, and that Bigelow is apparently affiliated with him, and that's how he got the contract. That maybe allegedly this is just a big slush fund to steal money out of the DOD. Boy, that ever doesn't ever happen. That's all I'm going to say about that. But it is weird because Bigelow wasn't just involved in this. He's looking at aerospace advanced space study to look at advanced aerospace weapon threats. That's what the hell he got $12 million for, from current data 40 years out. Then what the hell was he doing at Skinwalker Ranch? You know? And this is not a Skinwalker Ranch show, but I'm just like, what is going on? Like I said, whatever they showed us on the History Channel related to Skinwalker Ranch, it had nothing to do with any of that nonsense and swampiness and weather balloons.
Yeah, that was just, it's almost a farce, that show. And I know it was very popular, but it did make me laugh. And you were talking about it earlier, people kind of trying to refute the things that we were saying by bringing up that show. It was kind of funny.
So
Yeah, there was no reason to keep talking to them after that, really.
Yeah. And again, because I'm a big fan of quantitative things, we've got this report examined 144 separate incidents of encounters of what the United States government deemed as, quote, unidentified aerial phenomena. So they've now got a dedicated unit that's called the Anomaly Surveillance and Resolution Office, because they love their acronyms in DC, I can tell you that. And they're now probing whether or not the strange craft that have been reportedly buzzing the United States military, including that Tic Tac UFO, are of Winnie the Pooh, camps where you concentrate country, or Putinville, or not of this world.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, all three of those, depending on which way you look at it, are quite terrifying.
Yep.
Yeah, none
The
of that's
defense-
good.
No, the Defense Intelligence Agency of the United States of America. I thought that was one hell of a fascinating article. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more. You guys, we have covered so much tonight, and we have gone a little bit longer than I know you wanted to. Hey, Dino is in the house. You guys check out the Late Horror Show. Dino, hit me up tomorrow when it's convenient. We've been playing tag on Twitter because I want to get him back on the Tuesday show. Great guy. Dino, I love your stuff. I listened to your channel multiple times during the day. I'm a big fan of the old Sherlock Holmes radio shows, but they also have some really great science fiction shows, really great old school stuff, fantastic effects. If you're into that stuff, check it out. So you guys, in closing, tell me about what we covered tonight. What would you like to cover next? Or what I guess, what do you think about what we covered tonight? Do you think it's important we keep doing it? And if so, why? Let's close the show with that one.
I think so. I'd love getting to talk about this, and this is one of the parts where my knowledge isn't as strong as you guys. So this is more of an education for me. So I would love to do a part 2. If we do it, perhaps look into some of these abductions or cases where people have had close encounters. I think that would be fascinating. I would love to do looking at hotspots. We talked about there are certain places around the world that are really concentrated for sightings, and I'd love to kind of dig into why and what they're seeing. Just incidentally, we were talking earlier about MUFON, and strangely enough, the MUFON symposium that is happening in July this year is in Denver, Colorado.
Oh yeah, shocking. Yeah, fly into that airport and stare at that horrifying art. I'm just going to say, for 10 years, I passed through that airport a lot, and I would sometimes have a 4-hour layover, and it sucked. And I tell you, if you're drinking a lot and you stumble out of the bar and that artwork is the first thing that you look at, you're not having a good trip home. That's all I'm going to say about that. I want to shout out YetiCast, though. YetiCast was in the house. He said that he wanted to talk about this stuff. Brother, hit me on Twitter. This show, we want to bring people in, rotate people in who have a passion and interest in this type of subject matter. Thanks for coming in. Please, if you guys haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button. I'm going to go to you, Zaxx. Why do you think it's important that we talk about this stuff? I heard some of the intensity, and for a Canadian, that's a hell of a thing, related to the obfuscation to this. But it's like, it's just, these stories need to be told. They really do.
Yeah, they do, and they have to be filtered and sifted a bit, and we have to find the ones that are the most important to look at closely, and then we have to hold those up and show the world. And I think it's important because from our chat tonight, even some of the stories that came out of our chat and their experiences that they've had, that things I've never heard of. And so if we don't talk about these things, we don't learn about these things, and I think learning is the key, and sharing information is important.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going through chat to see if there was anybody that we wanted to put out there. Yeah, well, oh, wait, something just jumped on me. I'm sorry. Did we get a super chat? Did I get them all, Zaxx? I just don't want to leave everybody. So yeah, it's the next show we are going to get into ancient impacts, and I wanted to take longer than just the hour and a half tonight because I wanted to get into Graham Hancock's work. I wanted to get into Randall Carlson's work. Now, I first found out about Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock through Nerdrotic when he was still doing the Exozone, which was a big motivator to me. I missed that show. I loved listening to that and see the images and hear Gary and Doomcock talk about that stuff. I'd love to have other people come on this show and talk about it as well. The those things that we looked at earlier with that supposed jet plane that wasn't a jet plane, then also that magical orb that just was Chinese rocket fuel traveling in a straight line at high altitude. There are so many things out there that all we have to do is look at what's in the ground and look at what's in textbooks, because right now in our lifetime, all of the things that all of us have been told about the history of us as a species, not as a country, I think are going to be rewritten if we can get through the next decade. And a lot of it has to do with the ice cores from Iceland, from a lot of comet research that's been done, a lot of asteroid impact that's been done. And we're going to get into that on the next show. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be wonderful. But I want to give you guys a gift, and this is a true gift. Look up Joe Rogan, Randall Carlson. I believe it's an episode in the early 600s. You can find it on Spotify. Listen to that episode. It will blow your freaking mind. And from there, listen to the Graham Hancock, the Randall Carlson interviews with Joe Rogan. They are absolutely fantastic. And they, for me, answered a lot of things that I knew with my eyes. I could tell we were being told a story that didn't make sense, but boy, when those guys have done the research, and it's just fantastic. How do you guys feel about Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson as we close up the show?
I think they're fascinating. I've listened to the interviews that you talk about, and yeah, highly, highly recommend them if you haven't listened to them. It really is eye-opening stuff.
Yeah, I'm all in on it. I don't go along with everything they say, but it's they ask all the right questions, and I think they look for answers. And when they're wrong, this is my favorite part. When they're wrong, they come out and say they're wrong about something. And so, I can trust that. And I want to say to the chat, guys, if you like this, let us know. It's kind of a test run. So thanks for coming. And if you want more of this, please tell us.
Yeah, please leave some comments. I was going to originally just record these things and put them out as videos, but it's so much more fun to have you guys in chat and interacting. I know we have a hell of a good time on Tuesday night. So if you dig it, please let us know. Leave a comment, tell somebody. Also, suggest things that you'd like us to cover. We are going to cover the ancient impact stuff coming up in the next episode. But you guys, I had a lot of fun talking about this stuff. And what I want this show to be is not us telling you what to think. I'd like to have it be us present evidence, have you interact with us, and then have all of us say what we think it is. And if we don't know, we're going to tell you that too. Nobody's here to sell you anything. Nobody's here trying to get you to drink the Kool-Aid. We've all put up with that bullshit for the last 3 years with people trying to convince us things. And that's not what we're doing here. We're going to talk about some crazy stuff, but not what to think, how to think. That's what I want to do with this show. So you guys, we have 15 people in chat. We're about to hit 1 hour and 30 minutes, which is 15 minutes longer than I promised I'd go for Purple Valkyrie. We will be back next week. Again, we'll be covering ancient impacts. You guys, anything you want to say or shout out before we close out the evening? What do you got going on the rest of this week, Purple Valkyrie?
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for doing this. This was such a great idea. I love getting to talk either, paranormal or anything people have witnessed. So as this series goes on, I think we're going to cover some incredible subjects, everything, from aliens to cryptids to time slips. There is so much that we can dig into. This is just the beginning, and I'm really excited. So thank you, guys. Really appreciate being brought on board for this.
What about you, Zaxx? Before we go, anything you want to shout out?
No, thanks for having me on, and thanks to the chat and Purple and everyone. And we have some ghost stories, I think, in the chat that are going to come out soon that are going to be fun to talk about. And
yeah.
But one last thing I want to say is 80 million votes.
81 million. Most popular
votes.
Most popular ever. Oh, and that's why I moved to Texas. That's all I'm going to say. So, everybody, you guys are fantastic. We still have 15 people in the chat. Hit me on social media. Also, if you have stories of the paranormal, of UFOs, of things, of articles, please send them to my email. It is on the channel member. If you haven't become a channel member, please consider it. We do cool things like this, and I hope you enjoy them. To those of you who are my Wolf brothers and sisters, thank you again. And to those that are my Tavern premium channel supporters, I thank you and you honor me. You all, I had a lot of fun. Thank you for making this channel what it is. Thank you for being my friends, and thank you so much for making this such a fun show. We will see you all again very soon. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
As ever, this is Salty Texas Sea. I am Corey DB. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen and heard, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. That way you know, and we have things like live streams, which we are going to be doing every Tuesday evening. Take care. I hope you're having a great 2022.